Thanks, Maria. Hi, Matthew, alcoholic. And
Hey Matthew.
hi, guys. This is my first time doing the online meeting, and also I'm just generally freaked out by speaking in general because that's the way I am. But I'm just going to talk about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And yeah, with that, I'm going to start at the beginning. Had a pretty normal upbringing. Most of my family is pretty high functioning people. We're all pretty intense, though. I'm definitely intense. Had a very normal childhood, but always felt um, like everything is just turned up all the way. I'm thinking about other people, thinking about me all the time. Having issues like in second grade, being so afraid to go to this like timed math test that was on Fridays that I just tried to not go to school at all, even though I really liked school, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. When I was 9 years old, I had a strange episode where I thought my whole family was aliens and ran away from home a couple of times and actually ended up going to inpatient treatment for that. And I mentioned that not because that bout of mental illness is what makes me an alcoholic. It's just part of my story, and it relates to some of the stuff that happens later on. Um, so yeah, so after that, I was pretty just committed to being normal. I wanted to be perceived as normal. I wanted to put that episode behind me and not be known as like, oh man, this kid who's really weird because he tried to kill himself when he's 9 and had to go to the psych hospital. So school has always come pretty easily to me, and I was pretty decent at sports as well. So I just focused on doing that because that was a really good way for people to give me positive feedback. And I don't really think I have a difficult time remembering that my life is worthwhile without other people telling me that I'm doing a good job. Like it's easy for me to understand that other people matter and deserve respect, but for some reason, it's just not as easy for me to remember that about myself. Um, so yeah, so I was like pretty straight laced kid. The first time I smoked weed was when I was 16, and when I was 17, I got drunk for the first time. I was with my friend. I was like, oh man, like I'm so old. Why haven't I done this yet? Um, so we decided to raid my parents' liquor cabinet. It got pretty fucked up. He decided, okay, like this is enough. I'm done. But I like felt the initial feeling, the warmth spreading throughout my body, and just feeling like I could relax and not worry so much about what other people are thinking about me or about the future or really anything else. And I could actually just exhale and be myself for once. So that feeling of relief, the it doesn't make me an alcoholic that I feel some type of way that I have problems in my life. But what makes me an alcoholic is that I have a solution in drinking and doing drugs and doing things to get outside of myself to feel better. And that for me, drinking is such a strong solution that I will chase it to the ends of the earth until it stops working for me and does serious harm in my life. And it doesn't really matter what the consequences are. It's going to be a toss up for me to decide what's more important to me. It could be like my family, it could be a job, career, school, anything. But it's a toss up. And for even type of people who are hard drinkers or substance abusers or whatever, if they're given an adequate reason to stop, they can generally stop or moderate. But for me, that was not really the case. So didn't drink too much in high school because my mom was pretty strict and she was on my ass a lot. Went off to college and I was like, okay, like I can finally do what I want to do. I can drink the way I want to drink. And I got it all figured out though. Like, things are going to work out now that I'm in control. Um, by December of my freshman year, it was starting to lose control over whether or not I decided to drink, and like on a certain day. And by the spring, I found people who drank the way I drank and joined a fraternity. And then the people who I was going to live with sophomore year were like, oh man, we can't live with you. You're drunk all the time. And it's a Tuesday and you can't be doing this. But I had found the people who drank the way I drank. And those people's validation was all that I really needed. The school made me sign a contract to not to not drink or do drugs, or they could kick me out of residential life. And my solution to that is not to stop drinking or doing drugs, but to move off campus so they can't kick me out of housing, because, just take my ball and I'm going to go home. So yeah, that summer was interesting. And I was back at home for the end of it. And it was like in Harry Potter where he's counting down every day. I know you like that one, Maria. Down every single day until going back to school, because I couldn't drink and do drugs the way I wanted to at home. And for me, that was such a big sticking point that it was like every single day I had to go without drinking and doing drugs the way that I want. Granted, I wasn't sober, right? Like I was driving to the gas station and buying beer and drinking it while driving, because like it's like they're ABC stores in North Carolina. So it's like, I was like scared my fake wasn't going to work or something. But shit like that. And I thought that was torture, just only being able to go to the gas station and drink beer while driving around. I thought that was just like the worst thing ever. So from 30 days down to one, counted down until I went back to school. And my sophomore year, things unraveled pretty quickly. I've been creeping the grades up to show people like, okay, show my parents, okay, I got this. I have it all under control. And one thing stands out in my mind going before I went back to school sophomore year. And that was my mom and dad have a conversation with me. Oh, Matthew, we think you're an alcoholic. You can't have your fake ID anymore. You need to give it to us. And I was like, guys, I'm not an alcoholic. I need my fake ID so I can buy alcohol. And they're like, if you really need your fake ID so much, doesn't that mean you're an alcoholic? And I'm like, no, I'm not an alcoholic, and that's why I need it, So it's like that level of just insanity. That's what the insanity means to me, is that I can't really distinguish what the real thing is from the fake thing. And if necessary, my brain will tell me whatever it needs to tell me in order to justify me keep drinking. And it's a pretty scary place to be. So fast forward a little bit. Actually, no, I'm not really fast forwarding. I'm going like a normal fucking speed. So things fall apart very quickly that fall semester. I have to withdraw from a few classes. I can no longer show up to class. I can no longer turn in papers. It's clear things are going downhill. I become desperate. And I make a promise to my parents I'm not going to drink for the rest of the semester, and I make a promise to myself and everyone else I'm not going to drink for the rest of the month. And within a week, I woke up on the side of the road. So it's like, really, how much good did that do anyone? It didn't stop me that I couldn't show up for school. It didn't stop me that I couldn't show up for my family. I was going to do what I was going to do, and I did get to a jumping off point where my options really seemed like keep doing what I was going to do at school, and eventually I was going to have to leave, and my mom was going to put me in treatment, which I didn't want to go back to treatment or inpatient because I already been there when I was 9, and I was just like, that's horrible. I hate that. Number 2 was like disappear and start doing harder drugs, and that was looking like a really solid option. And then number 3 was kill myself, which like, not out of the question, but it seemed like a difficult thing to actually go through with. Then number 4 was somehow figure out how to stay sober and not, and I don't know how or why, but I ended up getting 12-step by somebody who's not even an alcoholic and not even in the program. And I don't even think he's an Al-Anon, but maybe should be. But he 12-stepped me and he's like, have you ever tried a 12-step program? And I was like, no, what's that about? Googled some AA meetings, went to my first meeting, and I almost cried. It was really difficult to go there. And I almost cried when I was there just because all these people had exactly what I had, and they were speaking my language, and they were describing to me like all the things that I felt and the reasons why I drank the way I drank. I thought that life just wasn't set up for me to succeed, and that if everything was ordered in a particular way, I'd be able to, if everyone else just did what I thought they were supposed to do, then everything would work out, right? But that's just not the way things are. And so at that first meeting, somebody gave me the list of young people's meetings in St. Louis to go to. And I started going to those and met people I really identified with, and who had similar experiences I did. It took me a little while after I came in to, to be able to accept that me being an alcoholic, me not being able to drink alcohol meant that I can't do any other mind altering substances and have it work out. It's just not in the cards for me. If it can change my mental state and make me feel better and give me some sort of temporary relief, I'm going to chase it to the end of the earth. So a couple months of trying to stay sober. Like, got off weed, couple like more times I drank before I finally before like my sobriety date of January 11th, 2015. I came in like the end of September, and then I've been sober since January 2015. But yeah, the very last time I got high, after that, I was like, okay, I need the solution. I can't just stick around and hope that whatever other people are doing rubs off on me. I need to actually figure out what they're doing and do it in order to find a solution that makes me not want to die and also allows me to not drink. So at that point, my old sponsor moved and I got a new one, did steps 1, 2, and 3. And at the beginning, my third step was really just a decision to go through with the rest of the steps. I didn't really have a higher power of my understanding then. And I don't really know that now I understand it much either. I have a couple spiritual practices and things I do in order to connect with my higher power, but it's not so much something that I really understand then or so much now. So it was important to me to be able to say, okay, look, like I'm willing to do the rest of the steps. I saw that it worked for other people and I believe that they have what I have. So I think that it could also work for me. I remember I was reflecting on this recently, doing my first 5th step, and the day after I did my first 5th step, my sister was visiting for me for Easter, and she said something to me about how I had snubbed her the day before and was being selfish. We were just at a coffee shop, and I almost threw silverware, and then I had to step up, excuse myself, take a lap, and then come back and sit down, and I was crying then. And that was the first time I ever cried on behalf of hurting somebody else and feeling like, oh man, like I really did a harm to somebody else. I feel bad about it. And the reason why that little thing set me off so much is because I just done the 5th step where I looked at all the different ways and that I act that harms other people. And I really seen like, my patterns, and just so that was the reason why that one little thing was able to set me off, is because I was finally like aware of why I was acting the way that I was acting. What's it called? There's more steps, like 8 and 9 are really cool because I can turn the page, like while not like shutting off the past and forgetting about it, I can own the way that I behaved in the past in order to start on a new page and actually, like have something of like I was doing this then and I'm doing this now, and that was me and this is also me, and to keep moving forward as well. A little bit about just like, I've been sober for like 4 years now. So then I've also had things happen to me in sobriety. I've had the experience of being in a relationship where I thought that I was just being like the epitome of like kind and tolerant, but at a certain point I wasn't asking for things that I needed, and I wasn't like communicating this is what I need and sticking to it. And I didn't think at first that there was like being too tolerant or too loving or too kind, but then really they're like, oh, curveball, really you could be doing these things because you're so afraid that this person will like say something negative about you that'll just totally, your entire self-worth will crumble because it's been placed in this like other person's idea of you. So I did, so you get more fun flavors like that. The more time you stay sober. I've had another experience where I moved to Texas for a job that did not work out at all. Like I moved there specifically for the job, and then I had just an absolutely miserable experience with it. And I'm like only now starting to be able to move on from that. And for the first, for the first while during that, I had a similar experience with the relationship where I thought, okay, like it's something I'm doing. I need to be doing better in the situation. I just need to work harder. I need to be better, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually it turned out that my boss was actually somewhat delusional, and I was being gaslighted, but not because she knew that she was gaslighting me, but just because she didn't have that firm of a grasp of reality kind of. But the important thing for me to remember is I need you guys, and I need people that I can be accountable to and can talk to and that know what's going on with me, because I can't see which situations I'm being unreasonable and which situations somebody else is being unreasonable. It's very difficult for me to say, okay, I'm acting up and being crazy in the situation, or this is, that's 15 minutes, but I'm going to go for like 2 more minutes and I'll be done. Or to know this is a situation that is just really bizarre or not okay, and that I'm in the right. So that's another thing where I'm glad that I get to do it, that I have to do it with other people, and then I get to do it with other people. Like, I don't know how to do this thing alone. I was on a pretty long road trip this summer for over a month, and beforehand, like a month before the road trip even started, I had moved away from Austin and kind of like ended things with my sponsor. So I had almost two months of just venturing, no sponsor, not really talking to many people, not going to enough meetings. And I thought I could just like ride on the good times and how much fun I was having and how many people I was seeing and all this stuff I was doing. But by the end of it, I really don't know how to do this thing by myself. And I need you guys, I need meetings, I need people to be accountable with. By the end of it, I was just like, damn it, I need to get to New York, like, and get a home group and find people as soon as possible, because I don't know how to do this thing by myself, and I don't have to. And that's one of the most beautiful things about this program, is that not only do I do a couple simple things and it ends up saving my ass and totally like changing my worldview in a super positive way, but I can't really see what's going on with me, but I can see what's happening with other people. And I'm reminded about that, especially when I talk to some of my friends from when I first got sober, and I'm like, wow, damn, we really have different problems now, huh? Like, I remember it used to be just had like 5-hour energies and Marlboro Reds just like in the back of your car, and your car was never working, and we were both dating people we shouldn't have been dating. And those are the problems we're having now. And the problems we're having like 4 or 5 years later, like, okay, like I have people want me to do too many things because I'm good at my job, or I get to go to graduate school and I'm fucking busy all the time because I want to be busy, and I get to do fun things like hang out with my friends and make music when I'm not doing graduate school. And then I'm like, oh my God, they're putting too much. I'm like, dude, this is what you asked for. Like, figure out what you're willing to do and what's too much, and then figure out what those boundaries are. Then like, this is like what you asked for. You asked to be busy and you asked to have a life. And it's really cool that I get to do these things, because I don't know how to do these things if it's not for AA. I'm going to shut up now. Thank you guys.